only there was some way to tell if I was online. If only. Oh, I have pretty bad line. Woo! As they say. See if this works, just really quick. Okay, it works. I'm not getting caught by that off guard again. As usual, I like to just kind of ramble about stuff for the first few minutes here before we get started. Let people stream in a bit, and of course, give me time to put all the timestamps up here. So, hello Janine, hello Venters. So the note, I actually have a note this week for things I want to talk about at my little pre-ramble situation. A preamble, if you will. Hey Virith, hey Cosmic. And that ramble is that Legion is awesome. That's it. Legion's awesome. The end. Go about your business. Move along. No, seriously, Legion's amazing. Obviously, I cannot and will not be able to judge how good Legion is compared to other expansions until I've gone through basically the whole expansion. But so far, this expansion is in the running for the best expansion I have seen thus far. We'll see if that actually holds true through the duration. I've heard lots of complaining about it, of course, which gives me hope. Because usually when people complain about WoW, it's because they're idiots, and because of the fact that Legion is, you know, WoW is actually really good. Like, people are like, oh my god, Leander. Hi Leander. Hi Roaring. Hi Shadow. People are like, oh my god, you know, Cataclysm has no content, Pandaria has pandas, and Warlords has garrisons. Usually, this is a sign that I'm going to like what they're doing. And Shadow's apparently bailing on us because he's terrible. I don't know why Shadow, he's just better than us. That's actually the real reason. But yeah, so far the biggest complaints I've heard about Legion are hilarious. Hey Mandarin. One of the biggest complaints I've heard so far about Legion is the fact that there's too much content. I'd just like to say called it. I actually said, before Legion came out, that after people constantly complain about how there's too little content in Warlords, one of the bigger complaints people would make is that there's too much content in Legion. I didn't say that for any given reason, I just thought people would be contradictory to be contradictory. And I was freaking right. People are horrible. The other thing I've heard people complain about is there's just too much of a story focus in Legion. There's no, you know, there's too much of having to go and do quests and having to go through these story arcs. It's terrible. And I'm saying this with this tone, but I want to stress that I mean this literally. I've actually seen people complain about the fact that there's too much story focus in Legion. I've actually seen that complaint. I've actually seen the complaint that there's too many quests in Legion. I've actually seen the complaint that too many people don't want to go and do, you know, story stuff, that they just want to go run dungeons and go PvP, and they feel this expansion is not catering to them. Hi, Saldir. I'm pretty sure people will complain about anything. Because they're people, and that's just how that works. What's a Francis in context, Roaring? I was kind of going for a Wario voice. If anything. I'm a Wario. I'm not gonna win. There's too much game in my game. Oh, right. I don't watch his Francis stuff. I know what you're talking about now. I can't stand his Francis stuff. I watch Boogie, not Francis. Yes, absurdity. There is everything wrong with it. Everyone who likes PvP is clearly wrong. Hang on. And clearly, any focus on anything that I don't like is terrible. There we go. I think I got across my tone properly. Also, please no Legion spoilers in chat. We've gotten to the point where we've actually created a penalty box in the guild where we will be shoving people where they will lack the ability to talk in chat if they keep spoiling things. Anyways, Janine, why can't you play? I'm sorry, that just clicked with me. I'm a Wario. I can't do that kind of nasally voice that well. Personally, I'm thinking that... I can't do it. I can't do it. There's a movie called Legion, Seldir? What? Rah, Rosebud! Rah. In all sincerity, I'm eating Legion up. It's terrible. It's really eating into my work schedule. I actually feel terrible about relaxing and having fun with Legion with my friends because of how much it's eating into my work schedule. Oh no, we're still Alliance versus Hording. It's kind of different, though. I actually just did a quest involving the Alliance versus the Horde. It was very interesting because I also had seen it on the Alliance perspective. And it's nice to see the Alliance be the clear aggressors. That was actually refreshing for once. But it was also nice to see... I've never even heard of that, Seldir. Sure. But it was nice to see the Alliance being the clear aggressor and basically clearly in the wrong. And then see everything go to hell for both sides because of that. Because that's what should happen. You know, anytime the Horde and Alliance start fighting it out when insert major power B is attacking them, it should be the kind of situation that just makes everything worse for both sides. Doesn't matter who the instigator is. We're both screwed now. I like that. Favorite class hall, that's actually very difficult. I haven't really explored any of the class halls other than Rogue and Warrior. So, between Rogue and Warrior, I'm going with Rogue, hands down. The Rogue place is gorgeous, absolutely beatific, but in terms of overall aesthetic, lore relevance, and general feel and flavor, the Rogue Hall wins by a margin of gargantuanness. By the way, if you hear me clicking occasionally on the keyboard, I do apologize. I've got it set up so you shouldn't hear it too much. What I'm doing is I am constantly... I'm not even going to click that, Sally. I don't care. No, I have not finished Stormheim yet. I am stealing from lots and lots of shadowy pillagers trying to be a rogue. The funny thing is, and I was talking about this, I've talked about this before, and this is especially true now, it's not like I don't understand where Greymane is coming from. He certainly has lots of reason to hate the Legion, or the Horde in general, and very, very personal reasons to hate Sylvanas in particular, since, after all, Sylvanas did kill his son right in front of him. Let's try to remember that. So it's not like I don't understand that desire for revenge. It's just, maybe he could wait just a little bit longer and try to get his revenge when we're not facing the Burning Legion and all of its forces trying to kill us all. I mean, holy hell. Just... why? Janine, why can't you play? Explain yourself. How many minutes are we up to here? 8 minutes, that's good. Okay, we can actually start the Loreweek now. Alright, let me get my notes here. Okay. So, the first thing I want to talk about is kind of weird. This isn't really much of a big discussion, so much as something that occurred to me recently. For some reason, several of my viewers tend to think I'm smart, and I'm not. I am actually very, very stupid. And I wanted to kind of discuss one of the ways in which I am stupid. Have any of you out there ever played Super Punch-Out? It's the SNES version. What the heck, Janine? The Super SNES, did I just say that? The Super Nintendo version. It's a good game, actually. I recommend it if you haven't played it. It's fun if you like the Punch-Out format. The reason I bring it up, I've probably told this story before. More than once in my life, I have gotten... I'm a slow learner, is what I'm leading towards. And I like to use this as the example because it's probably one of my favorite examples of it. It takes forever for ideas to occur to me and to really click in with my head. Now, once I learn things forever. And I use Super Punch-Out as the example because what happened was the first time I ever picked up that game ever, and I actually meant to show this off, but I don't feel like pulling up the game right now. Basically, I fought the very first guy, the tutorial fight. He's an absolute joke. I mean, he is such a joke that what I'm about to tell you is that you're going to make fun of me because I lost to him. Gabby J is his name. I lost to the Gabby J fight, which is pathetic. which is so pathetic that you should make fun of me. You should actually do it. Because I'm a slow learner. It just took me so long to figure out what I was doing and how I was doing it that I'm just like, I don't know, like, this isn't working in my brain. Once I finally got used to the game, once I finally actually figured out how the game works, I then beat the game in one sitting, like right after it. And my friend who had owned the game for a couple weeks at that point in time, Vincent, he actually had not beaten the game yet. The first time he saw the game all the way through was me sitting there playing it from him. Now, this is not bragging. I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm amazing at games. What I'm trying to say is the exact opposite of that. I'm a slow learner. It takes me a long time to get to the point where I actually figure something out. Now, I mentioned this actually came up with regards to the show, because every now and again I'll just kind of come up with an idea for the show. And it's nothing mind-blowing. I haven't come up with any great, grandiose ideas for the show. But bit by bit, I call it a bit of an iterative process, where things will just kind of occur to me, like, oh, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe this would be better. And it's stuff that in hindsight is really obvious. But again, a slow learner, it takes me a while for ideas to really get into my head and sink in there. Once they do, they're stuck there forever. But yeah, I have some issues getting to that point, as you might imagine. Damn it, Janine, that sucks. I'm so sorry. I hope you have the money to do that. Legion's awesome. You should do it. You should do it anyways. Hello, Chrissy. So I mentioned this as well because some people have asked, why haven't I done insert blah with regards to the show? Some people keep saying things like, why don't you... Well, I'm not going to use a specific example. Let's not go into that. Let's just say people have kept saying, well, why haven't you tried this, or why haven't you tried that? In some cases I have, and it just hasn't worked. Or in some cases it wouldn't work for me. But for the most case, it's because such an idea hasn't even occurred to me, because that's just the way my mind works. It's actually really horrible because it makes me feel stupid on a regular basis. How I'm like, oh, I could do this, I never even thought about that, that kind of a thing. It also is interesting to me because... by the way, we're not doing Anime Man ever again, just to make that clear. I bring it up as well because I feel I'm not the only person who has the slow learning perspective, the slow learning problem. And I feel like it's something that people tend to get a little more negatively inclined towards. People tend to make fun of people who are slow learners a little bit more than they should. And I just wanted to kind of, give you some sort of camaraderie, I guess, for lack of a better term. I've been there. I'm with it. No judgment here. No looking down upon. One thing I do actually find horrible is that the whole... People tend to make fun of people for basically any reason under the sun. And I don't think... I think that's basically just an excuse, to be blunt. If someone's trying to make fun of you because you're a slow learner, or someone's trying to make fun of you because of blah, they're probably just trying to make fun of you. They don't actually care what the excuse is. They just pick a target and say, go. I've actually tried to analyze this very concept, which I do believe to be a thing in real life, with Primus. Because in Primus there is a condition called desolation. And desolation makes you hate someone. Except the reality is they don't know that they hate them because they're desolates. Most people don't even realize the person they're hating is a desolate. Their mind invents a reason to hate them. And the reason is a complete excuse. I shouldn't even say a reason. They just invent an excuse to hate this person because they are desolate, but they don't understand that desolate. Makes sense? Yes, Lore Dog's gone forever. Never coming back. That's actually Thirsty Dog, and she's not my dog. Anyways, so I just kind of wanted to talk about that. This actually leads nicely into my next topic, though. Let's go ahead and put a timestamp here. Which is Hateboys. Now, I haven't actually talked about Hateboys in a while, so this is kind of a refresher. But Lord knows I have plenty of viewers, and I haven't, like I said, it's been like 2 years since I've really discussed the concept of Hateboys. Fanboys is obvious. Fanboy is someone who insists that whatever they like is something that is perfect, that there's nothing wrong with it, and if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you. Now, that sucks, Janine. If I had the money to spare, I'd help you out, but I really don't. Sorry. So a fanboy, now, some people, this is my definition. I should clarify this. This is my definition of the situation. I define a fanboy as someone who is a terrible person, let's just start with that, who looks at something and says, well, I like blah. You know, I like Doctor Who, I like, I don't know, video games, I like anime, it doesn't matter. I like cars. And if anybody doesn't like whatever they like, there's something wrong with them. There is just something unexcusably wrong with them. And they will fight, and they will anger, and they will rage, and they will defend it blindly, whatever it is. Some people have actually accused me of being a fanboy. By my own definition, I am absolutely not a fanboy of anything, actually. But, of course, people will constantly fling such insults because that's just how that works. So, you know, not a big surprise. By the way, this is really out of topic, but anybody who wants to be involved in a pseudo, you know, FTL-style stream later, be thinking about if you want to do that or not. And we'll get some viewers involved as members of the crew kind of a thing. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Yeah, basically, Dakota, yeah. But yeah, so fanboys are like, rah! Rah! They do the Wario thing, rah! I like blah, and anybody who doesn't like blah, blah. Now, the funny thing is, people tend to assume other people are fanboys because lots of people get defensive. Now, I've talked about the defensive concept many times. It's a very understandable thing. Let me give you an example. Let's presume for a moment that whoever you are listening to this right now, you like Elvis. Okay, I'll pick something rather generic. Now, let me say I hate Elvis. Okay? I can't stand his music. It actively hurts my ears. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop that, because there's more I would usually say about Elvis, you know, about how his contributions to music, about how he was incredibly skilled, and basically invented half the elements of what we consider modern rock and roll. You know, so many things Elvis has done is a positive thing, and I actually think he was a very talented, very skilled individual. I just can't stand his music, but that's all in the well-reasoned thing. So let's remove reason from this for a moment, and let's instead talk about defensiveness. Let's say you love Elvis, and I just said, I hate Elvis. Now, the way this usually works, and I'm sure some of my own viewers have had this reaction to me, and I know I've had this reaction to my viewers, and I'm sure people have had this reaction to other people too. When you love something, when you really care about something, and it is bashed by someone else, then your general reaction probably tends to be getting defensive, right? You try to defend the work. You try to say, well, this and that. Well, but this is in this. And, well, maybe you're just seeing it from the wrong direction, okay? Now, to be clear, that is not being a fanboy, okay? That is defending something. It's a very natural, logical reaction. I do it too. Like I said, I actually try very hard not to do that. I spend effort to try not have the reaction. It's so instinctual. It's automatic. It's kind of the opposite. Now, but you can see, the reason I point this out, the defend thing, is because it's so easy and obvious to then take that to the next step, which is fanboyism. If I said, I hate Elvis, and you love Elvis, you could then get defensive about Elvis, and that's fine. But what if you then say, well, there's something wrong with me? There's something wrong with the lore runner here, because lore disagrees with me, and then therefore says, there's something wrong with you. No, you just don't get it. Now see, usually you don't say something so overt as, you're wrong. Instead, usually people tend to be a little more passive-aggressive about it, right? Like, oh, well, you just don't understand Elvis's music. Or, well, it doesn't surprise me that someone like you wouldn't like Elvis. You know? Really kind of offhanded insults, which in their own way are much, much more insidious than actually flat out saying, you're wrong and you're dumb. And I've had that happen to me all the time. Do you know how many... Let me use a direct example. This one, I'm kind of dull to it now, but you know how many times people have come to me about insert anime here and said, well, you just don't get it. You just haven't watched good anime. You just have no idea what's going on in insert anime here, you know, that kind of a thing. And you know how many times I've had people say that to me? I've gone out of my way over the many years to try and actually expose myself to a huge variety of anime, pretty much just so I can actually hit as much of a gamut of it as possible. Because I'm stupid, but I still have the understanding of the fact that anime is not a genre; it is a medium, and you know there's tons and tons of things in there that that are both good and bad. Just the fact that I tend to not like most of it is just a matter of preference. But, you know, that's just one example to give you that. Oop. No, my first reaction, Shadow, was the fact that I thought you were joking. I thought you were joking about the Twilight Princess thing. Also, Riker was a pompous jerk in the first few episodes, Shadow, if you remember. Anyways, so that's a fanboy. Now, of course, what I really want to talk about is Hateboys, because I've just seen so much Hateboyism lately. Hateboyism is basically the same mentality, though. It's just in a different direction. For example, I want you to pretend... Hi, Azure. I want you to pretend for a moment that you hate Elvis, okay? And I say, I love Elvis. Now, there's something wrong with me, because I like Elvis. And only an idiot would like Elvis. And you can see how the exact same mentality, it's the exact same mentality, the exact same focus. They even use the exact same insults. Oh, well, it doesn't surprise me that someone like you would like Elvis. Or, yeah, I guess you're just the kind of person who would enjoy something like Elvis. Or, I guess you're just not really capable of seeing what real music is like, you know. Or, it doesn't surprise me that you haven't really tasted, you know, what really good music is like. You know, that kind of a thing, right? That's hateboyism. This is why I talk about hateboyism and fanboyism in basically the same discussion, because they are effectively the same thing. The only difference is the focus being liked or hated, and that's it. And hateboyism has come up a lot lately. This is actually why I want to discuss this. Hateboyism has come up about 2 games in particular lately, to such a severe degree that it's actually kind of ridiculous. No Man's Sky and Final Fantasy 15. Both of which have had a ludicrous amount of hateboyism, to the point where people are actually flinging the equivalent of literary diarrhea at people with regards to, oh, how dare you like this, or how dare you be interested in this, or oh, it's just going to be garbage. Now, of course, I have never accused you of that, Samurai. As I made clear, my only complaint was the fact that it was a constant thing. That you were not the only person. Several people in my chat were constantly bashing Bethesda over and over and over every day for over a week. It just got old. That was my problem with that. Not the fact that you don't have legitimate grievances. Correct, FF15 is not out yet. That is absolutely correct. People still hate it. Yeah, and so you get this whole hate boy thing going. About, like, oh my god, No Man's Sky is the worst game ever made. It's disgusting and awful and terrible and horrible and just... Oh my god, disc just hit 110. Seriously? Are you our first 110? I'm gonna laugh if you actually did get there first. You did! Anyways, sorry, one of my friends just hit 110. And is our first 110 in the guild. What am I going to be playing? After this, I'll be playing a game that's a super secret mystery. But it will involve possibly player interact or viewer interaction. Anyway, so yeah, I actually don't have that much else to say about hateboyism. Really. Like, I do have one other thing to add. I am a fan of Blizzard games. I've made that very clear. I can't really point to a Blizzard game I haven't liked. I even liked Overwatch, and it's the type of game I don't like. I even like Tears of the Storm, and that's the type of game I don't like, right? So, I'm overall a fairly big fan of Blizzard-style games, all the way back to Warcraft 1. And so, hate boys for Blizzard are very common. Of course, Blizzard games are popular, and it is more popular to hate on popular things than it is to hate on unpopular things. It's sort of an inverse indie cred kind of a thing, you know? Whereas some people it's popular to like things nobody likes, it is also popular to hate things everyone likes. Makes sense? And, yeah, Blackthorn was awesome. So was Life Vikings, actually. Not as good, but, you know, still fun. But yeah, so the hate boyism for Blizzard games is something that is both through the roof and something that is so common that it barely even registers on my radar anymore. Like I said that earlier story about people are like, "Rah!" with regards to Legion. That I said that comically because it's so funny to me at this point. The fact that you that it is so typical at this point. It's like saying that water is wet. At this point, that's how much of an impact it has that people hate Legion. Hey guys, water's wet. Just so you know. Water remains wet. It's completely irrelevant. Anyways, so the next thing I want to talk about is something that was actually mentioned to me. Hang on, where's the... Of course, I have heard Bethesda Hateboys as well. Not talking about you guys, but I have heard Bethesda Hateboys, and holy crap, they can spit some bile. Let's talk about shotgun marketing, okay? I have to talk about this with regards to a gentleman who I'm not going to name. I've decided not to name him. He's another YouTuber person. And he's someone who goes out of his way to push out a video every time he hits any given, like, milestone. Like, you know, at 3,000 viewers, at 4,000 viewers, at 5,000 viewers. You know, lots and lots of different little milestones. And he puts out a video and he says how amazing you are and how incredible you are and blah, 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 blah. Now... The funny thing about that is, on the one hand, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. He wants to put out a video thanking his viewers. That's fine. It is my blunt opinion, that's not what he's doing. He is doing shotgun marketing. Now, if you don't know what shotgun marketing means, it derives its term from the general concept. You can probably picture it right now. The idea is that you are just firing an entire blast of just marketing, just huge marketing oversaturation to try and increase your overall visibility, which is trying to go ahead and constantly remind you of the existence of whatever it is, the product or individual or show or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. I actually try to not do shotgun marketing. I actually go out of my way not to do that because I kind of disagree with shotgun marketing. It's kind of like the jump scare of horror, if you know what I mean. If you don't understand what I mean by that, it's cheap. It's frickin' cheap. And I don't like being frickin' cheap, you know? I don't like just going for the low-hanging fruit. I like actually putting some time and effort into my work. Granted, this kind of came up because someone asked me, why don't I do shotgun marketing? Someone actually said, hey, maybe you should do shotgun marketing and get more exposure and get more people noticing it. The gentleman in question, who, again, I'm not going to give names, we actually did a search, a friend of mine, and he had, like, within the last month or so, he had, like, 30-plus videos, which were all, thank you, you're amazing, videos. Again, shotgun marketing, the idea of just constantly getting that exposure out and constantly trying to remind people of everything. I'm going to pause in my discussion now to say, first of all, hi, Valiant Shadow. Welcome to this week's Loreweek. You're not too late. You're not too late. Hi, Omni. What's up again? And hey, Yuri the Grey. How you doing? I actually don't have any Canada Dry. I just have water today. I'm promoting water today. It's this liquid thing. There's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen somewhere in here. I don't know. Hey, Kuro, what's up? Anyways, so shotgun marketing is absolutely something that works. It shouldn't, in my blunt opinion. It did absolutely work for him. He absolutely has far more viewers than I do, and indeed ever will. But maybe it's just me, but I feel like that is appealing to a market I don't want. That is appealing to people who want 10-minute bite-sized videos or 5-minute bite-sized videos, who just want to constantly go from one thing to the next, who... His strategy is to try and get as many... No, he was not Sergey. His strategy is to try and get as many viewers as possible so that he can then subsist off of ad revenue. In his case, he is going with basically the opposite strategy of what I'm going. I am going for long-term viewers who want to continue being patrons and using that as my method. You know, subscribers, basically, subscribing to my show. He is going for lots and lots and lots and lots of viewers, and we're talking in the millions, because you need in the millions of viewers in order to get any significant ad revenue, because ad revenue is actually this dinky little thing when you really get down to it. I am nowhere near capable of existing off of ad revenue, and I'm actually kind of glad for that, for reasons we'll talk about later. Yes, I will be talking about the YouTube thing in a bit. There's actually not that much to discuss, to be perfectly blunt, but people have asked me to talk about it, so I will. Anyway, so yeah, some people... That's a great analogy, Leander. Some people prefer snacking. Some people prefer full meals. I want subscribers. I want people who are going to be, you know, invested in my show for a long-term basis, who are not just going to pony up $5 or watch some of my videos. I want people who are willing to push in $2 every month for the next several years. That's what I want. And so that's very much a completely different market from shotgun marketing. So that's the other reason. In addition to just flat out, really. Frickin' rogue. I'm deliberately over here to get out of your way. I'm trying to share this. Anyways, so yeah, this is, it's a deliberate marketing ploy in addition to the fact that I'm actively trying not to, be cheap. I don't want to be cheap. You know? I don't want to be the person who crosses an ethical boundary, to put it as absolutely bluntly as I can. This is also relevant, though, to something else that I wanted to talk about that came up recently. This gnome really wants to steal my kills. This is actually funny. And that is regards to No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky actually had a lot of shotgun marketing. Where the blame lies for that is actually an unfortunately unusual thing to discuss because of the nature of how modern corporations work. I will say Sean Murray is absolutely partially to blame. But as far as the marketing side of things, I'm not actually 100% sure where that problem is derived from, because there was just tons and tons and tons of exposure. Again, I've already explained shotgun marketing. It was just No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky. The content of the marketing, the content of the push was almost irrelevant. And I know that for a fact because if you actually paid attention to all the stuff that had been talked about with regards to the marketing, you would notice that while there were lies in the marketing, absolutely, there weren't that many lies. Most of what they were talking about was basically showcasing the kind of game that we actually ended up getting. The actual game it was. There wasn't a lot of fake marketing. There wasn't a lot of misrepresented marketing. There was just lots and lots of marketing. And so, bam, bam, bam. Now, again, there was some outright lying with regards to that marketing. That's absolutely true, and I won't deny that for even a moment. But percentage-wise, there wasn't that much lying, is what I'm trying to say. And that's my point. I think one of the problems No Man's Sky had with regards to expectations was they went with such a ridiculous, exposure, such a ridiculous, again, shotgun marketing perspective, that it got overboard. Everyone knew about No Man's Sky. Everyone knew about this game. And oh my god, it's constantly everywhere. Hitting all, constantly having interviews and constantly having presence at conventions and constantly having just stuff everywhere. Yes, but the problem, Samurai, is that's still like 10% of the content that was talked about in the marketing, if you understand. Like, there was stuff that was lied about, but there was also way too much exposure about the game in general. Like, okay, let's leave the lies out of this. That's actually irrelevant for the point. Whoops, I didn't mean to kill that guy. Sorry, accidental death. The lies are irrelevant for my point. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're telling the truth or not when it comes to shotgun marketing. It really doesn't. I know that sounds weird, but bear with me. What matters is that it was constant overexposure to something. There was constant people talking about it, constant interviews, constant showcasing at conventions, constant demonstrations on IGN and on actual gaming shows and all that, just constant just endless blah, 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 blah. And that is the actual problem, I think, with regards to that, because it didn't work, did it? I mean, yeah, it got them lots of attention, but did it work for them long term? Now, here's the interesting point. Whether it worked for them long-term is something I can't tell because I don't know if they made money on the game. That's the really horrifying part. If No Man's Sky was a financial success, then that means doing the cheap method worked. That means cheating with regards to marketing, and the shotgun marketing actually worked. And that's normal. Just like it worked for that other gentleman I just mentioned, and his cheap thing, and where he just blabbers on about, oh, you guys are amazing, and here's another video reminding you about the fact that, oh, God, we just did another thing, and blah, blah, blah. It's cheap, and it works, and it probably shouldn't work. And that's... I don't know how else to add to that. Maybe I'm just too much of an idealist. Maybe I'm just too much of a person who thinks that we can do better than a Snickers bar. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. But I'm not going to be doing shotgun marketing. I am not that desperate. I'd rather commit suicide. Moving on. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next point here, which is going to be at the 35 here. That depends on which metric you use, Panic. It is entirely possible for a game to have lots of sales and then lots of refunds, but thanks to how accounting works, that still qualifies as a success. Because, as anybody will tell you who's actually really worked with accounting and how people think about it with regards to budget, with regards to return, in regards to where the money goes, with regards to the next bid budget, and how they talk to the stockholders and all that fun stuff. You can say we sold all these units, and you don't have to say these ones were returned, and that will then be showcased as if you are a successful company, because corporations are terrible. Anywho, next thing I want to talk about is EVE Online. I'm just going to cover this really briefly, because near as I can tell, what EVE Online is doing is deceptive. So for those of you not aware, EVE Online is going free to play. Now, does anybody know what I want to talk about with regards to this before I even get there? I'm really curious. I doubt I have any EVE Online viewers, to be completely blunt. But I am curious if anybody here can guess where I'm going with this. I've talked about that before, Deacon. That's basically cashing in on consumer trust to obtain money, which works like 99% of the time. So, first of all, EVE Online is basically doing the Tor method. What that means is that if you want the default EVE Online experience, as in the baseline, you need to subscribe. You need to. If you want to have a substandard experience, like they have taken the base game, removed chunks of the game, removed access, removed ability to play it, and now you can play that for free. Here's the weird thing, and I haven't been able to 100% confirm this, because I don't know that many personally people, actually I know nobody personally anymore who plays EVE Online, and people who actually play on the EVE Online, well, let's just say it was hard to get a straight answer out of anybody, but basically this seems to be nothing changed. I know what you're thinking. Huh? What I mean by that is basically what's happening here is they're giving out the same trial that has existed for a long time at this point for EVE Online, except now they're calling it free to play. And it's restricted, and there's only so much you can do, and there's only certain things you can accomplish, and you're an alpha person instead of an omega person, or whatever the hell terminology they're using. And it feels like this is basically just a rebranding, a form of, hey, look, you can go and you can try our game out. Please try our game out. Trying to get in new audiences. And I'm not sure why, because EVE Online has an extremely loyal player base. It's actually kind of funny in its own right. And I can talk a lot about the EVE Online player base. I won't. But they're, I don't... The fact that they're trying to reach out to get new players involved is odd in its own right. And I'm not really sure why they're doing it. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but EVE Online is an extremely niche game. I'm not saying that as an insult. It is an extremely niche game. It's over here in its corner. And it is very, very, very much player-generated content. Excuse me. And I don't actually know what else to add about that. It just strikes me as very strange that they would try to basically lie about this. Now, again, this is not 100% confirmed. I want to make that clear. I have not been able to 100% confirm if this is the situation. So that's my thoughts if that's the situation. Let's move those aside and talk about this as if this is a free-to-play format. In which case, all I can say is the exact same things I said about Tor. There are several methods of doing free-to-play format. I've talked about this many, many times. I even praised certain games, 2 games I could name right off the top of my head, that did free-to-play in a good way, and I have bashed games that have done free-to-play in a bad way. And my biggest example for how to do free-to-play wrong in an MMO has always been Tor. And now EVE Online is doing the Tor method. So even if this is a brand new thing that isn't an extension of their free trial period thing, or their free trial gameplay, this is still a bad thing. Because now we're staring at a situation in which, well, you could play the game with someone, basically with your ankles shackled, relatively speaking, as you're meandering through the game, and you'll never be able to get those shackles off unless you pay up. It's the opposite of what I would consider the good method, because the good method is, here's a good game we want you to be invested in, so you'll be encouraged to spend money on it. You'll want to spend money on it. This is, we're holding the game hostage from you until you spend money on it. We're letting you get a taste. Think of it like a drug dealer. I know this is a weird analogy, but seriously, they give you a little taste, not enough to satisfy, not enough to be good, not enough to really, complete whatever it is you're going to this drug thing for. And if you want more, well, you're going to have to pay up now. As opposed to, well, I'm not sure how that analogy fits for the other side, but you get my point, right? Yeah, I don't know what else to add to that. I don't agree with what they're doing, and it's no offense to EVE Online, and it's no offense to EVE Online players. Please don't hate me like you always do. But I do think that EVE Online is making the wrong choice with this. The next thing, I have to quit twice. What time is it? 40, 41:20. Next thing I want to talk about is D&D. So, there's the thing that Dragon Con's going on right now, right? This weekend, and I think for the next couple of days. I am obviously not there. I do not have the money. But the reason I mention this is when I was young, my exposure to D&D was basically through just kind of stumbling across it, basically, and then trying it out with other kids, right? There's a thing going on right now at Dragon Con where a bunch of kids can go, and I'm talking about, say, I think it was like ages 8 to ages 14, something like that. And these kids were being encouraged to try different stuff. So basically they get like a little bingo card type thing, not bingo card, but like a checklist, and they have to try out like D&D, a certain type of board game, a card game, I think a LARP thing, stuff like that, right? This kind of a thing. And each time they try, they get a checklist, and if they complete it all, they actually get stuff. They get, physical goods, merch, if you will, as a reward. But the thing is, they have deliberately, at least with regards to the D&D thing specifically, and I can speak to this because Third, you guys know Third, right? He's been on the Then and Now section, and he, of course, plays Snarg over in the Primus campaign. Third is actually GMing for a bunch of those kids. Yesterday, I know. I don't know if he's doing it today. And he was talking to me about it, and apparently they have, they're doing fairly basic modules that are designed to be tutorials, basically, get you into the concept. They're designed for people who have never played a role-playing P&P game ever. Pen and paper, if you don't know what that means. D&D, GURPS, Friday Night Firefight, Cyberpunk 2020, etc. And so they're designed to just kind of get you into the concept of the dice rolls, and here's what your stats are, and here's what role-playing is, and so forth. And 5th edition is probably the best edition to ever do that on. I actually praise 5th edition a lot. It is a fantastic system, very easy to learn, and with enough complexity to not actually be stupid, not boring. Furthermore, I just think it's really cool that we're encouraging kids to try out new forms of things through this whole thing that's happening. The idea of basically a reach-out program of, why don't you try D&D? I would have loved to have that when I was a kid. I didn't have that as a kid. To be perfectly blunt, I'm not sure that would have even worked when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I don't think that would have ever been functional. So I just think it's a great insight into how not only widespread gaming has become, but the fact that gaming in general is now the kind of thing that we can consider socially acceptable, so that we can try and open doors. That's really what it's about for me, the opportunities. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I was very lucky as a kid because my mother was a pharmacist. Now, if you don't know what that means, a pharmacist in the 80s and 90s made a lot of money. And so Mom was actually pretty financially well off. This meant I was able to indulge in things like hobbies. I had the door opened for things like video games, for example. A NES was expensive. Some of you may not remember this, some of you probably do, but just having an NES and several games for it was a lot of money back in the day. Even ignoring the whole inflation thing. So I was actually very fortunate to have a mother who was taking care of me, who had the kind of financial backing and and it was a good mom on the top of that, to be able to say, here, let's go ahead and try this out so I could express myself and have those doors open to figure out what I liked. This is how I got into economics. It's how I got into history. It's how I got into writing. It's how I got into video games. All these things. And so again, I think that the idea that groups and organizations are trying to open doors for people like this, like was open for me, is a great thing. To get kids at least the chance. They might not like D&D. They might not like tabletop. They might not like card games. But at least they have the opportunity to try it and the encouragement to try it to see if they like it. And I love that idea. Some of you remember my last year's Gen Con video. I talked about a kid who was a brat at the D&D table. You remember that? I hope some of you remember that. And he was just a total brat, clearly not having fun, and I kind of, bashed him for that. But then later on, that same kid sat down with us at a Magic the Gathering thing, where it was a whole, let's figure out the Magic the Gathering playthrough, right? And that same kid loved MTG. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I mean, his attitude at the D&D table was a little meh, but at least he had the opportunity to try multiple things, and then he found one of them that he liked. He didn't like D&D. Okay, that's fine, but he liked MTG. He got to try something he enjoyed. He's got this new hobby he can explore, and a way to express himself creatively, and I love that. So, just wanted to kind of talk about that really quick there. Now that we've ended on that wonderfully positive note, let's get to our last topic of the week. YouTube. Let me change playlists. I actually have a playlist called Dead. No joke. Nah, it's not. Let's do this one. Or no, this one. There we go. There we go. I don't want to talk about this. I'll be blunt. This is actually a more complicated situation than it looks like. But a lot of people have asked me to comment on this. So let's just go ahead and talk about this. First of all, both sides are wrong. Let's just get that right out of front, okay? I've actually done a decent amount of research onto this. YouTube is flat out lying about several things and is trying to exert pressure. And the people who are being affected by this, I don't even remember their names right now, but the major people who have been making a fuss and complaining about what YouTube is doing right now are right and wrong at the same time. It is actually a more complicated situation than it looks like, and that's part of the problem. That's part of why I don't want to talk about it. For those of you not aware of what's going on, YouTube has recently, putting that in quote-unquotes, started implementing a new policy, putting that in quote-unquotes, policy about how certain types of videos do not qualify for monetization. In other words, they will not be putting up ad revenue. You will not get ad revenue from certain type of videos. The type of videos include things that are talking about controversial issues, include too much cussing, or things that are just generally considered inappropriate, okay? Now, I'm a bit of a prude. I'll just go ahead and admit that. It's actually something my friends make fun of me a lot. But this is from 4 Heroes of Light, Mandart. It's a good song. It's a good game. I recommend it. It's grindy as hell. You should probably cheat. So, I don't like, crude humor, for example, but there's plenty of crude humor out there that other people do like, and I don't think that should be disallowed from the ability to make money off of their product. I don't talk about political issues on my show, but plenty of people do. There are plenty of people whose primary goal, the primary thing they do with their show is talk about fairly large political situations and political problems, things that are happening. Everything that happened in Turkey recently, just to use a direct example, that is a very, that's something that some people do primarily. I don't think ad revenue should be restricted for them. Some people hit hot button topics, not political stuff, but controversial stuff like rape, stuff like racial problems, stuff like, issues of religion and discussions of political leanings and whatnot, as opposed to actual politics. All three of these groups of people, in my blunt opinion, despite being a prude, despite not wanting to have anything to do with that stuff, if given my way, is stuff that I would not restrict the monetization of, right? I imagine most of you would agree with me on this. Let's talk about how the viewers are wrong first, because they're less in the wrong in my opinion. And by the viewers I mean the YouTubers, excuse me. The YouTubers in question have been talking about this like this is some big censorship thing, okay? Like they're being just smashed down and they're being oppressed and blah, blah, blah. That's a clear exaggeration, okay? Let's just make that clear. Not all of their videos have been hit. They are still able to make money off of some of their videos, and this is a specific form of pressure. This is not censorship. I know this sounds like pulling a technically, but there is such a huge margin of difference between censorship and pressure, okay? Now, whether pressure is considered more acceptable than censorship or not, that's a little more debatable. Let me pull an analogy out here. The first and second Lich King would kill you, and then raise you up as undead and enslave your mind to his, right? That's censorship. It's blatant, it's obvious, it's brutal, there's no subtlety about it whatsoever. It's just, you are mine now, okay? Pressure is what the Forsaken have been doing, and we talked about this during the Cataclysm Forsaken Starter Zone, where you are raised up as an undead. They didn't kill you, someone else killed you. But you were raised up as an undead, and you now are undead. You can do whatever. You can go off and live your life and do whatever, but there's a lot of pressure being applied. Where can you go as an undead? Who will accept you as an undead? The Forsaken offer open arms to you. You come join us, serve in the Forsaken military. We'll give you a home, we'll give you food and take care of you and give you a career and all that fun stuff. We'll treat you as if you're part of us. Or, you can go do whatever. You're free. This is pressure. Make sense? Now, censorship, in my blunt opinion, is bad. The problem is people also tend to misuse the word censorship. And the word censorship, I don't even want to get into that discussion, to be perfectly blunt right now. I don't even want to talk about censorship and how it actually applies and how people misapply that term. I just wanted to make the point clear that what is being done here is marketing pressure. I usually call this the highway method, although I was never actually able to 100% confirm if this story was true or not. But what I was told was that at a certain point in U.S. history, the federal government had no direct control over state governments. So if the federal government wanted to pass a law, the states didn't have to ratify that law, right? However, so they could not directly control the states, but they could apply economic pressure and say, we're not giving you your highway funding in order to maintain the highways through your given state, unless you acquiesce to this law that we want you to put in, blah, 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 blah. So that is actually what YouTube is doing to these people. Some people have been like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they're not actually taking down the videos. All they're doing is removing the ability to monetize the videos. Except that is, by definition, economic warfare. That is economic pressure. That is saying, oh, you can keep making your living off this other stuff that we agree with and we accept, but if you try to do this other thing over here, we're not going to let you get money off of that. Now, YouTube is a for-profit business. Let's make that clear. YouTube has the right to make economic decisions with regards to its business. Let's make that clear. As someone who is very well versed in economics, this is not an economic decision on YouTube's part, okay? However, there is another side of this. I'm going to leave that for last. I have a conspiracy theory about this, and you're going to hate me for it, but I want to at least get it out there because if I'm right, I want at least someone to know it other than my friends who I've already talked to about this. So that's their side of things, okay? Let's shift over to the other side of things. YouTube is actively lying. Literally lying. Let me explain why. Let's say I have a written policy right here, okay? Obviously, this just has my notes for the Loreweek. But let's say I have a written policy here. And let's say this policy says, in cases, let's just use the direct example. In cases of excess cussing, unacceptable or crude materials, or political controversies, I have the right to disallow those kind of videos. I have the ability to just shut it off, right? I can do that. That's on paper, okay? Now, this is a policy, all right? The problem here is there are two definitions of the word policy. There's policy on paper and there's policy implementation. A lot of people tend to blur the line between these two to lie. And let's just say it how it is. They're lying. Just because they're not technically telling any lies in their speech does not mean they are not trying to deceive you into an untruth. It is very possible to deceive without ever telling a lie. And that gets into technicalities. Remember, you get into it technically, you're wrong. So, YouTube has had this policy for a while. For a long while, actually. This is a very long-term policy that YouTube has had with these three things. They haven't really implemented it before. It has been implemented in the past. This is something that has come up in the past, but never to this scale. What is happening right now is a brand new implementation of existing paper policy. Right? Make sense? Now, what YouTube's saying is, well, this isn't new. Nothing's changed. There's nothing different here. All we're doing is the same thing we've always done. That is a bona fide untruth. That is the deception. And that's believe it or not, that's actually one of the things that pisses me up most with regards to this, is the fact that they're trying actively to try and say, oh, we're not doing anything new. This is just how things have always been. Bullcrap. What they're doing, at best, and this is me being tolerant, this is me being understanding, is the fact that they are implementing a new implementation policy of pre-existing paper policy. It is also possible this is actually a new policy on paper, and they're just flat out lying if we're not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Now, here's the thing. Oh, we got another version of that. I've got like 3 versions of the ghost house right around here. Here's the conspiracy theory. For years and years and years now, certain companies and holding companies have been trying to exert direct control over internet media, and have failed miserably at it for years because they've been trying old methods, things that worked on television, things that worked on radio, you know, things that worked in other type of various things. And those methods don't work on the internet. The internet does not function that way. So now they're trying something new, I think, because they tried to directly control the actual pipes. They actually tried to directly control the actual internet flow of activity, and that has failed 3 times that I'm aware of. I'm sure it's happened more than that, and that's just here in the States. Here's the thing. For all this whole new policy and all that crap, ads are still put up on things like CNN. CNN has plenty of cussing things, or CBS or whatever. Just about any of the major networks that still exist, that still have financial control, they still have plenty of the cussing and the other inappropriate, crude behavior. They still cover plenty of political matters, and they still cover things that are considered controversial. All 3 things, and yet those ones are still making plenty of ad revenue. Advertisers have no problem going to them. Advertisers have no problem showing their ads on those kind of shows and those kind of channels. And this is true for both on the internet and off it, although the distinction is getting very vague at this point in time. So what I think is this is an attempt to slowly direct traffic towards the channels that are going to keep doing those same things. Because, again, this is economic pressure. There are definitely going to be YouTubers out there who keep doing their particular type of reporting and whatnot. I mean, of course they are. Some people aren't in it for the money. But several of them are going to be kind of shoved out of the business because they'll no longer be economically viable. Make sense? Ergo, if people want that kind of information, if people want those kind of news stories, if people want that kind of stuff, their options have shrunk to more of the networks. Make sense? This is actually a fairly basic economic move. It's a form of trying to muscle out the competition. In fact, there's actually a term for this. It's called green mail. Now, some people argue that this green mail wouldn't apply to this case. That's a whole other topic I don't want to get into. But this is, in my opinion, a form of green mail. For those of you who don't know, green mail is a combination of green and blackmail. Green for money. So that's my take on that. Now, some people have asked, and thank you for your concern, if this affects me. Right now, no, not at all. I actually deliberately do not monetize my show. I have subscribers. Thank you, all of you, by the way. I have subscribers. You guys are how I keep going, because you pony up money every month and say, here, I want more of your content, and I say, thank you so much, here's more content. It's a very basic give and take. So this doesn't affect me at all, and will never affect me at all. Unless this keeps escalating. That's the problem. This is not the first step. This is more like the 8th step or so. But this has a very strong possibility to continue going and continue becoming worse. And that's the problem we have. By the way, someone asked in chat, I'm sorry, what MMOs I would recommend. Right now, Lotro, Star Trek Online, Neverwinter, and World of Warcraft. I could recommend all of those right off the top of my head. They're all good stuff. I recommend them. Hey, Palpatine, what's up, dude? Welcome to the end. It's funny you say if Patreon gets ganked, because I've already been looking into other methods of the monthly subscription fee instead of Patreon. Because there are several possibilities of Patreon either tanking or going in a bad direction. So far, I haven't seen any signs of that. I'm not concerned about it. But it's my friend Gary and I both have the same perspective. You always plan for the worst, and and then you have other expectations or hopes or dreams, but you always plan for the worst. So I am planned. Like if Patreon shut down tomorrow, I know what I'd do. Anyways, that's really all I have to say about the YouTube thing. Both sides are wrong in many ways. I think that the YouTubers are sensationalizing way too much. But what YouTube is doing is also fundamentally wrong, in my opinion. And that is just... there it is. Nothing else to say about that. That's actually all I got for this week. Whoa! And I just lost my pen. So I wanted to do another little feature. This is just kind of an impromptu thing. Hang on, let me just pause the music here. Who out there has heard of a game called This War of Mine? Oh, hang on. I'm going to go ahead and chop off the thing. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, there we go. That's funny, Panic, because several people have tried. I mean, look at Daily Motion and what's happened with them lately. I know what your response is going to be. Your response is going to be, wait, Daily Motion's been doing stuff lately? Good response. So I just finished, today, before I started recording, I just finished my rumination on This War of Mine. How many of you were here when I streamed FTL, or Darkest Dungeon, or XCOM? Ow. Now, see, the problem, Mandart, and this is going to sound very cynical, is they have no means of combating it. There is no defense against money. It's just reality. So, the reason I bring this up is for those of you who didn't see those. What we did was we actually had... we were playing through those games and actually named viewers after people. Now, after some digging into it for a little bit, I have figured out... it took me a moment... how to... I don't know, Vendors. I only have theories on the matter. How to name survivors in This War of Mine after viewers. So, here's the thing. I get 4. I can have 4 viewers, and we can play This War of Mine and see how horrible your lives end up. Disclaimer, I've played through This War of Mine 5 times for the rumination. I have never made it to the ceasefire. They have always died. So, if you are interested in being one of these doomed viewers, um, then please feel free to join us for this. Um, and it's not like I haven't been trying, by the way. Although, in fairness, the first time I tried really badly because I had no idea what I was doing. I talk about that in the rumination. I'm not going to bore you about it here. Um, so, yeah, I did an exploration on on Darkest Dungeon. No, I did not, Deacon, nor will I. So basically, so I'm sure more than four of you want to join in, and that's kind of the problem. I can only get four of you in. So I'm going to go ahead and do the usual method, which is 1 through 100. I'm going to pick a number. Don't guess yet, because I don't have the number yet. I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 100, and the four people closest to that number are going to be the four people who get to be involved in and be one of our survivors. So, all right. Now I'm going to take. I'm going to go ahead and take my glasses off so I can guess the number. So you can guess the number now, 1 through 100, if you're interested. Let me think of a number. I'm going to go with a non-standard number. I'll give you that. So I'm not going to pick one of my usual numbers. But it always has to be a number of significance, so it's not just random guesswork. So let me think about this for a moment. Okay, I have the number in my mind. All right. There we go. Now, lots of people want to be doomed. You guys are crazy. I'm gonna change something around here really quick. Oh crap! Did I do that wrong? Just a second. I think I did do that wrong. Yeah, we're gonna have to actually restart the stream for this. That sucks, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll just do that. Okay, so we'll call this this war of mine doomed. There we go. All right, I'm gonna restart the stream, so I'll be right back, guys.